sleeping at night, the whole itch cycle. I tried it all, putting creams and ice and nothing that would overly give you relief. There was a couple of months, like I went and slept in a different bedroom than my husband because like I was even worried about keeping him up all night. Even that piece, that connection that we've been married, well, now almost 29 years, but just that separating. And I can remember like teaching and I itched all day long. And at the point, like I was showering maybe once a week and then I would clean with a cloth. Like it just, so there was points that it was just excruciating, right? The body was difficult. That was the most difficult because it was even sitting on my bottom, like at times. And you look funny when you're scratching your backside, right? You can scratch your arm, you can like people, you can like, right? But when you're scratching your backside, right? That was, and all down, like more like the front of my legs, my knees. Eventually, I found the Eucerin cream. It said it was for eczema, and that was the first thing that did start to give me some relief. So I don't know if it was psychosomatic. What I did though notice last summer, I was going through tubes a week, but I think I was destroying my skin barrier. And even though it wasn't, I don't think it was harmful, it was constantly putting my skin into flaking, as opposed to allowing it to heal.
Yeah.
I've gone to more of a cream with a big honey base. And that I feel is the most moisturizing.
Different creams will work at different times.
Yeah.
And it can be quite confusing too.
Very confusing.
We always say if you can find a cream, no matter what the ingredient is,
yeah,
just use it to help you get through that flare. And then we do that deeper work. With those creams, I mean, I've used all of them, but they do have alcohol in them. So whenever there's a water base, you have to have alcohol in it as the preservative, so to speak. And that's drying for the skin. And most of them are more alkaline. Your skin naturally is more acidic. And so when you're saying you're putting the vinegar on your face, that helps it balance the pH. But if you do use something that's a beeswax base, that usually has less water in it because it's quite thick.
And that's what I'm finding now is the best for me right now. Yeah.
Yeah. But use whatever you can to get yourself through a flare.
Yeah. But I noticed, it was that the constant flaking. And so I think it was constantly like drying out, but the itching, and I couldn't wear wool. I just needed to be in cotton and loose fitting when I was at my worst. Yeah, it was difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like having a part-time or even a full-time job when you're at that state. Because like you said, you'd wake up and look at the mirror. Every time you pass the mirror, you'd look, okay, is it red? Is it flaking? And I did the same too. Like I'd spend an hour just picking off all the little flakes.
Yeah.
All the flakes. You wake up, first of all, you wake up scratching.
Yeah.
And then you go, the damage that was done. And then you go and try and pick it off. Yeah. Then you go to the closet and say, what am I going to wear? I have nothing to wear, even though it's full of clothes.
Yeah.
And then it's, what am I going to eat? And then, okay, what's going to happen in the day? I would pack multiple creams. I'd have a backup cream and a backup cream and a backup cream in my bag. And it is just really hard navigating it. And like you said, sleeping, you'd wake up and then, that disconnection with your partner as well, which is really hard. And it's just so multi-layered, not going out and being social, even though you're a very social person.
Yeah.
And that's such a really big red flag. And you don't realize it in the moment, but we talk about it a lot in the program, the funding connection. When you start isolating yourself and you don't have that support, and what do you need when you're going through a challenging time? And this is based off the polyvagal theory, human connection for co-regulation. It's just how we're built as humans. So it is interesting that the more severe eczema gets, everybody says it, they start canceling plans, they don't go out, and then all of a sudden you have the biggest tool for regulation for your nervous system.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that was when I just had to let that piece go. And it's once I let that piece go and then continued back with my friends, I think cycling, my friends and I cycle, and that I never let go of. And it never brought me the same kind of itchiness, which was funny. And I just always thought, okay, I'm out in nature because we were hiking. We're not road cycling, but like through trails. So I'm like, okay, I'm out in like the forests, like going through forests and fresh air and with my friends, and we'd stop and have maybe coffee along the way. And it was just so fulfilling that even at the end of it, it was never negative. So it was something that I always was able to hold on to. And then I was making those connections and then hearing in the program about how fun and connection. And once I let that go, and even to this day, like last couple of weeks, because I've been traveling, I haven't been able to get to the gym on the weekends because I've been away. And so then when I went back, there was a little bit of that nervousness that came back again. Oh, I haven't been there in a couple of weeks. What's going to happen? And I had to tell myself, oh, your face is going to get red. You're going to come home. You're going to have a shower. It's going to be red for a couple of hours, and you might have a bit of itchiness on your face. And then when you go to blow dry your hair, it's going to get hot and red again. But then you're going to go to sleep and you're going to wake up the next morning and it's going to be soothed. And so I had to talk myself through it. And it turned out exactly how I said it did. So now I'm going to just even try a bit of reverse psychology. You're going to go to the gym and you're going to be fine. And it's not really going to get red. And so I was doing that before, but remembering to keep like I'd done lots of steps forward, but then because I'd been away from the gym for a bit, again, I got a little bit forgetful of how I needed to set myself up. I guess what it was. And just telling yourself, no, it's fine. Like it's not a big deal.
And
And
that's
whatever happens.
yeah, because when you've gone through a tricky period with your skin and it has impacted you on so many levels,
Right.
mentally, emotionally, physically, like your nervous system and your brain is always scanning, am I safer? Is
Yeah.
there a threat? So then all of a sudden, if you get red again, and it's, am I going to go back to that space? Mayday, that's where those anxious parts come
Yeah.
up.
When I was a child, I think it probably had to do with at the point of when my probably parents had separated, and then the stress of school, again, that perfectionism, very competitive, driving myself to get good grades, to go off to university and to please my mother, right? We had a single mom so once she had left my dad, so it was, even though she didn't put the pressure on me or my sister, but both of us can both agree that we just took on that drive to succeed. And then I think over the years that continued along, and she also has eczema, actually. She actually had it more through her life than even I did, but hers never got to the point that mine did, where I was at my wit's end and then started to really look for alternate solutions because it was on my face, and doing the reading about putting cortisone and steroids constantly on your face, and realizing that I got to the point that I knew that had to end. So that's when I started to really look into alternative therapies. And the first one was Chinese medicine, and it was very successful for me. And I was doing that mostly through the end of COVID and then a little bit out of COVID. But then once life got back to normal and the slowing down stopped and I got back to life, then it came back again. And then my family doctor, very supportive of whatever I did. She would send me whatever I asked for. I went to multiple allergists, and I think it was when I was at the allergist and I got the results back and they were telling me this and that. And I knew deep down those were just things that on certain days might tip my bucket, but on others days weren't tipping my bucket. So I knew deep down, this is not really the cause. And they did prescribe, I was on the highest dose of Blexin for hives for a while. And I suppose it did reduce the hives, but again, I was still battling everything else. And it was at that point that I think I was on social media and I came across you on social media, and very shortly then reached out and had a fabulous conversation and a long conversation with James, and it was funny. He responded back to me when I was driving to school. So I literally sat in my school parking lot probably for about, I don't know, 20 minutes talking to him and realizing, okay, I need to book another call with this guy because everything he was saying was resonating with me. And I just felt really positive about what the program could do for me after talking to him. So that's when we set up another meeting. Then I got reserved again because I'm like, oh, like this is on the internet. Is this going to even be legit? Like,
Totally.
am I just throwing $5,000 away? So I pressed whoever like to get me information and then realized that it was legitimate. And then, of course, I have moved forward with it
Yeah.
and realized how much it did make a difference. And I remember saying when I spoke with Mandy on my final call, I said, I love the fact that you're with like beginners to the program
Yeah.
when you're in the middle of the program or when you're at the end of the program, because not only are you providing, when you get to the end, insight, but along the way, you're gaining insight. And you also, like the other big part of, for me, which I felt was, I could say to myself, I would hear people say things and I'm like, no, don't worry. You wanted to tell them and convince them that don't worry, like it will all happen. Trust the process. And everybody, for me, I know like I keep saying it, like the mindset pillar, I think was the biggest thing for me. My nutrition wasn't that off. My fun and connection. I have a big social life and I'm active and I go to the gym. And it was really when that started, when that was being impacted, that my sweat was burning my skin. And I would be in class and I would be really itchy. And then it just got to the point it wasn't worth working out anymore. And even socializing sometimes, I was starting to pull back and I knew I couldn't do that. And then I came across a meditation one day, and it was the whole idea of letting go of your judgment about yourself. And your skin is sending you a message, and to listen to that message and to meditate on what that message could be. And just accepting my skin in the state, whatever state it was in, just accepting that. And the more I accepted it, the more I moved through flares from within days and then within a day or overnight, and then even within hours within a day. So really the meditation piece has been huge for me.
And that's just such a great metaphor for life, and that's when you go through this journey with your skin, you're forced to do some of this internal work. Some people don't, but it's thinking of it as a metaphor.
Yeah.
So there can be all these big stressors in life. Like and you had this, we'll touch on it, the difference between stress and anxiety. I got goosebumps when you were saying that. So powerful. But understanding that there's all these things that are happening around you. And if you try and control everything, you end up with anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's the flow on effect. So we're having a quick chat just about your different root causes. And I loved what you said. Yeah, sure. There's the gut overgrowth and all the stuff came up on my GI map. But the root cause of that, which everybody misses, is how did I get that dysfunction in my gut? And it's
Yeah.
really that gut brain connection, which is gut brain skin connection. Oh, right. The thoughts in my head and what you shared earlier, just about how it was all connected to when your parents had gotten divorced. And then you were trying
Mm-hmm.
to, which is beautiful, right? You're trying to make your mom proud. There's
Yeah.
probably parts of you that are trying to take care of your mom too, because that would have been a challenging situation and major life event. And it's so common. We talk about it all the time on calls. That hasn't been well since moment. Being able to backtrack all of that and noticing these major
Right.
life events. You can't unsee that with that nervous system piece and the stress and anxiety piece. And then,
Right.
yeah, that bucket eventually overflows where you just don't have the capacity anymore. And then for us, with eczema, comes out through our skin. Or if you had migraines, it'd come out as migraines or
Right.
whatever chronic condition. But that's
Whatever.
just,
Exactly.
yeah.
My face was the first to get bad in the beginning of the process.
Yeah.
And then it went all over my body,
Okay.
where I would say by about at least halfway, maybe a little even before, my body, for the last 4 or 5 months now, my body has not had any eczema.
Oh,
Yeah.
so that's
So,
good.
yeah, it's definitely, I don't see it on my body.
Yeah.
I will get the redness like across my cheeks or a little bit through here.
Yeah.
And within the day, that can fluctuate. Also, talking to Petrula, it doesn't help that I'm now starting to go through menopause. So if I have a hot flash,
Yeah.
then obviously you're getting hot and the redness starts. So then it just takes a little bit longer I guess, inflammation, the heat to come out. So unfortunately, that's an added for me, but she's been, yeah, Petrula, I shouldn't say we've been really working hard and she's given me lots of supplements to really support that.
Which is
I really,
good because
so good.
if
And
you,
as long as I'm consistent,
yeah,
that's the biggest thing is that's actually, to be honest, is the biggest supplement that as long as I'm consistent with,
yeah. Which
then
one?
really I'm not experiencing. It's the Fem Adapt.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So as long as I'm consistent with that day and night, then generally it might be when I have my coffee in the morning, that might be, it's the triad, I call it.
Yeah.
The coffee can trigger maybe the heat in the body and then the menopause starts. But I can often meditate through it. And after my 10-minute meditation, it's gone. It's subsided and I can go on the rest of my day and I may wake up once at night. So really, I'm feeling as my gut health and I continue to work on that.
Yeah.
It's constantly getting better and better. I'm able even to go back and have alcohol on the weekend where there was months I couldn't. Every time the itching would start within a half an hour of having a drink, where now obviously I know there has to be a moderation to it.
Yeah.
And I'm really cognizant of glass of wine, glass of water, glass of wine, glass of water type of thing.
Yeah.
And just keep that hydration up and the flushing. And then make sure that I'm not eating other super high histamine foods if I am choosing to enjoy in the alcohol. So really knowing my foods that trigger me. And
Yeah.
every day I'm starting to realize it more and more. Like I'm realizing now foods that have a bit of a vinegar base. Like it's funny because I'll use the apple cider vinegar on my face, but if a salad dressing has too much red wine vinegar or a barbecue sauce has too much in it or some of the marinades,
Mhm.
so I'm just sticking with spices like olive oil and spices to marinate any of our like meat and vegetables in and away from any kind of processed sauce or
Yeah.
marinades. That's the only
Just
thing.
lemon or lime as a squeeze.
Yeah, definitely. I've always used lemon and lime, and I use lots of olive oils. Like I have a really nice rosemary one and a basil one, and I'll just combine that with a little bit of lemon or lime, and just for a salad, just mix a little bit of that up. I do want to get back to though the drinking of the lemon and the water.
Yeah.
So I started the last month, and I've been okay.
Mhm.
So that's something that I'm gradually trying to introduce
Mhm.
a little bit more in each day.
Yeah.
So that's food wise, that's the goal I'm setting right now.
Nice. I love that. And it's when you first get into this world, it can feel like a lot because is it food? Is it hormones? Is it
Yeah.
stress? And you know what? It's all of them.
Yeah.
But the key is, and that's what I try to do in the program, is just slowly pace it out. So you address it one by one so it's not too
Hmm.
overwhelming. And it is great on the other side when you do have that support and it's okay, Lisa, just do this. Let's focus on this. Let's focus on that. I'm not saying that it's
Hmm.
easy because it is hard to make changes, but then you can do that zoom out without getting overwhelmed. Okay, so if I'm going and having some drinks, right? You've done the gut work, you've built up some resiliency. One glass of wine or beer or whatever, spirit, whatever it is, doesn't just tip you over the edge. You have some more resiliency that you can have some alcohol, but then you know, okay, I'm going to have some alcohol. I'm going out with my friends. I'm going to have a nice time. Okay, maybe I'll lay off on some of the higher histamine foods so it doesn't fill up my butt. And then that's how you can control it. And then
Yeah.
if you do, and you like, you've gone through that process, we always try and coach people through. If you go out, are you okay with getting a little bit of a flare up? Because if you're not, then maybe it's not the time. But if you are and can do it without shame and guilt, and then, okay, I had fun. I had some alcohol. I had some pizza. I had X, Y, and Z, but I had a nice time and I understand why. That's
Yeah.
just helpful in your mind to conceptualize.
I think that is one of the hugest things. I think David was his name. And I remember him saying that one night. He was meeting with friends and he was letting go. And it was, uh, to me, that was my turning point, was the letting go that, okay, you're going to have a flare up. You probably are. And there were times that I did, but it's okay.
Yes.
And another thing is I don't wake up every single morning and go to the mirror and look at my face. So it was constant. Like whenever I would walk by a mirror, I'd stop and look. When I was going places, like I'd look in the mirror in the car, or I'd look at my phone and turn the camera at myself, or it was constantly looking to see, am I flaring? Am I flaring? What's going wrong? Am I flaking? Am I flaring? Am I peeling? And just when I let that go and it was going to, my face was going to be the way it was going to be, it was at that point was when I really truly started to heal. And it was my skin's trying to send me a message, try and figure out what this message is, do the work, do the deep work, do the breath work to support whatever anxiety. And sometimes I'll look back on it and, oh, that's what it was. So then I try and remember that for the next time, because the last probably 3 or 4 months, I've been traveling to the States almost every single weekend to watch my son play lacrosse. So 8 hour in the drive, like into the car, Friday night, 8 hour drive, get in late to the hotel. At one point, I couldn't sleep on the sheets in some of the hotels because I could smell the bleach and the face cloths. Like I was bringing at one point my own bedding and pillowcases and face cloths. But even something like that, of knowing what's going to flare you up. But I knew I'm just going. There's no downtime. There was at times the only thing I wrote for my me time was like being on social media, which I know is the absolute worst thing. But literally, there was no other me time in that day. But I went through that a lot better this year than I did last year, where my body was constantly inflamed, my arms, my legs, my backside, it was terrible. So this year was a much better year. And once, like I said, I healed my body, it never got, so my bucket didn't keep flowing over, that it stayed localized to my face,
Yeah.
which even that, like I'm a couple of days a week, my skin is like back to normal color. So yeah, it just depends.
Yeah. Yeah. And what is that like for you?
You know what? It's reassuring. It gives you that things are keep getting better. So it just becomes so much more encouraging. Positivity breeds positivity. And that's what I found with the program, that I was constantly either hearing from others and getting tips and about different things. And it was working positively. And my practitioner, Petrula, and I found we had a great relationship and could talk openly. And sometimes I could question her about things, and then she could give me real foundational reasons why. And that also helped me to like persevere through some times that maybe were a little bit more difficult, but then you keep coming out on the positive end. And that's what made me join alumni, was that I knew I still had to continue the work, that I knew, I think another 6 months, like I see the growth that I've done in the first 6 months. So if I can make that same growth in the next 6 months and continue, then I think I'll be really set just to move forward on my own at that point.
And I just want to say, Lisa, you've just had such an amazing journey. And just the fact that you can zoom out and in the moment when you're going through those tricky times, it's hard, but zooming out and then saying, okay, there's all these small little changes, and just focusing on all those little glimmers, because it is a process. And for some people, which makes sense, you go through a tricky period and it can just feel like, okay, this isn't working. But I always love that you did have that optimism and that faith and that hope, and knowing that things are getting better. And sometimes it's hard, definitely. But even when you were just recalling that process, it's okay. I know that it was working, and there are tricky times. I reached out for support. I could understand the why. And
Yeah.
yeah, all of that just builds and
Yeah.
builds, which is just amazing to witness. Yeah.
And I can't say enough about James. in that time,
Yeah.
I think I healed 50%. Like I was already like after that, by the time I got signed up and even before I started doing anything with the program,
Yeah.
just by the things we talked about,
Yeah.
I felt I was already on my way.
Oh.
So just even that.
Yeah.
So I never had a point that I ever looked back or second guessed the program. Yes, I would have flare ups,
Yeah.
but I also knew that they were part of the
Yeah.
process and they were giving me information
Yes.
to use to work out, to go deeper
Yes.
in my figuring out.
Yeah.
So I was never negative about things where
Good.
when I was working with doctors,
Yeah.
I would come away like so frustrated. And even I remember the last time I was with the allergist, I more or less told him like he didn't know what he was talking about. And what are you even doing? You shouldn't even be in this business. I was just so frustrated. And then it also makes you think, thank goodness I came across this on social media because I had Googled things, but I'd never come across. Now I see other programs, but I had never come across a program before. And I was Googling a lot of things. And they would give you like certain little remedies and certain little things, but it's mindset. And I don't think the other programs go there,
Yeah.
how deep it is. And that's why I'm always like, no, meditate, meditate. I'm always like,
Yeah.
and that one meditation I found,
Yeah.
Sarah Wright's meditation, like for itchy skin,
Oh,
I do
Sarah
that
Wright's
probably most
great.
days.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she does polyvagal theory, and I think I've heard her talk in terms of internal family systems and parts as well. She's amazing. Oh,
Yeah.
cool, cool. I'll have a look at
So whenever I would have a chance, I'd put her name in the chat and I know Drew, I know he's done it a couple of times and he's responded back to me and said, "Hey, thanks. Yeah, I'm feeling good about things." But yeah, it really makes you realize that your mind can heal you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's so
And
powerful.
having the trust of that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we're talking about that root cause. Like the nervous system is underlying for everything. So
Yeah.
every single condition, right? If you're nervous, and we always talk about it in fight, flight, rest and
Yeah.
digest. If you're in that survival mode, which it's just our society and the way that we're living these days. If you look at,
Unfortunately.
yeah, unfortunately, and it's not saying that we have to go live in a village. Like my partner, his family still lives in a village in Fiji, and I look at that, I'm like, oh, that's what everybody's trying to get to now. Which there's pros and cons to both, but if you look at just the way that we're living and the pressure that we have to achieve this, and it's about more, 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 do more, right? Travel down to the
Mm-hmm.
States, you're a beautiful mother, your son's like me. So we do all these things, but then we have to think about, okay, what's the impact on my nervous system? So how can I
Yeah.
create space? And then like it is, we always say it's unpeeling the layers of the onion. Why? Why? Okay. Why do I have these gut overgrowths? Why do I have all these thoughts that are constantly bouncing around in my mind? And just keep
Yeah.
peeling it back. And then it is about just creating space. And it
Yeah.
is hard when you're busy, you have kids, you're working, you're socializing, you're going to the
Yeah.
gym, doing all these things, but you just even have to start with 5 minutes. And it's so powerful. And yeah, like you were saying with the other programs, yeah, I realized like my impactful moments. Then I started asking clients, and then everybody just kept saying, "Yeah, me too." And I'm like, "Okay, this is outside my scope." So we have Karen, who's a psychotherapist. We worked with another neuropsych, and we literally reformatted the program based on neuroscience and based on that we mapped out the nervous system of people with eczema and saying what parts come up. Okay, what can we do? Is there intervention that we can use if this comes up? And just noticing the mindset piece. And if people
Mm-hmm.
watch the interviews, mindset, slowing down, regulating your nervous system is something that comes up with every single person. And everybody that we do an interview with after they finish 1, 2 year, 3 years after the program, that's something that they all say that they work on. And it's not
Yeah.
something that you just go through the program in 6 months, or if you do the
No.
alumni deep work, it's continuous work. And
Yeah.
for some people, that might just be like, okay, I don't want to do that. But, I just love your journey because you can find these new little trailheads. Oh, okay, that's something that I can work on. And then that's that piece where you have control rather than all
Right.
these things are happening to me. I don't have control, but it's like, okay, that's coming up for me. And I loved, maybe you could share if you're open to it, on one of the last calls. Oh, your big aha moment. It was one of the last calls of the program, and something had come up. I think you were working, yeah,
Yeah, give me some of that.
with something at school, and you said, "Oh,
Okay.
I noticed my mind start going." And I think it was a conversation that something had happened, and you said usually you'd go in and start chatting with everybody, but you noticed your mind start looping and the thoughts looping, and you said, "I'm just going to put that aside." And then you're like,
Yeah.
"Oh, there's some more work that I need to be doing." And I was like,
Yeah. Yeah. It was in the staff room, and just teachers by nature, when they all get together, it's a stressful time. And before, I would be very reactionary or jump right into, I'm going to save, let me help you, let me help you, let me help you. And now I step back. I'm not always putting my hand up to volunteer with some of our most struggling students. Before, I was I was taking everybody on. No, just give them to me to lessen other people's load so they were less stressful. This year, that's been my biggest piece that I've worked towards. I have to honor myself and know my limits. So that's been a big thing, knowing what I can take on and when to say no, and say no a lot more than yes now. And again, that I think it all comes with that perfectionist nature of always trying to fix, make everything perfect and fix and let me help you. And then it comes at your own expense.
which
So,
that's the same pattern from when I was young with my mom,
yeah,
trying to help, trying to fix, trying to do better. And
yeah,
it is interesting when you do that zoom out and you're just like, oh, yeah, that's that same pattern that keeps repeating. And
continued.
yeah, and it is hard. Somebody might be like, "Oh, that sounds like really selfish," but you have to be able to take care of yourself before you can take care of
Mhm.
others. And that's what,
Yeah,
like what we always say, eczema warriors, the classic personality type.
yeah,
The carers, the teachers, nutritionists, helping other
yeah,
people, doing. And then from that neuropsych lens, being people pleasers and not being able to say no, but that's at the expense of your own health. And it's just suppressing your own needs, suppressing your emotions, and eventually that comes out through your skin, which you can literally see in real time because yeah. I
yeah,
always ask the question, do you get itchy when you're stressed and overwhelmed? Everybody puts their hand up.
yeah,
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, that's
yeah,
where we need to be.
yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And on this topic, I loved what you were saying earlier, just about the difference between stress and anxiety. Can you share a little bit more about that?
I think first it's understanding the difference, right? Like I was saying before, you just assume that they're one and the other,
Yeah.
where it took me a long time to realize it was the anxiety that was doing the damage to myself, even more so than I think stress, because I feel that when I get into stressful situations, I actually move through them very calmly and can manage, and I can solve for everybody else, and just can, all the balls can be in the air and I can keep juggling. It's the anxiety. It's when I'm putting pressure on myself to do things maybe that I want to do or I feel that I should be doing, that where the balls drop. So really going through the program really helped me to, when I was looking at situations and really being able to figure out, oh, that's that's anxiety and that's that's stress. It can be something like, for me, I want to be like get to work at a certain time, and if I don't get there like even within a minute or so, then I internalize that. Oh, it's almost like you failed. You didn't win. You lost, like the competition where, stress, and say it's report card time and you're writing all those report cards. Time management. I know it's going to be a little bit each evening, and I'm only going to work at them for so long. And so I can keep my stress. I've got a good handle of that. It's keeping the anxiety of maybe more inward desires, maybe as opposed to outside pressures. Yeah, that's still for me where the work needs to happen. And a part of me is thinking, even like once I go through the program, that I think I need to do even more deeper work around that. And that might be through psychotherapy type of thing. Because the more just the self reflection I've been doing on myself, I've been able to, like, I'm definitely healing myself. and it's been helpful, but I'm thinking that maybe I have to go even deeper and I maybe need more guidance to move through that, to really, I don't know, empty that bucket
Yeah.
type of thing, to really get it right down to the bottom type of thing. I think that's the work for me, that maybe more one-on-one work where people like, I'll say something and then that triggers them to ask me other things for me to go deeper.
Yeah, we've actually
Yeah,
been looking because one of the therapies that was life changing on my journey is internal family systems. And we've based a lot of the program around the different parts of your system and different parts, like the anxiety part. And it's
right.
not about just saying, one of the members had said ages ago, "Oh, I just want to get rid of that mean girl part." And I was like, "Oh, actually, that's a really great reflection and something to work on. It's always going to be there. So we don't want to suppress that part because then it'll come up louder and louder. But understanding, where does that anxiety part of you come from? And you
Yeah.
have all these protectors and firefighters from the IFS lens, and then they're connected to an exile. It's usually a childhood exile. So, okay, understanding and befriending that, aha, I see that we're doing that thing again. No, I'm not that young little girl. Thanks for coming up and just having that conversation. We always say the space between thoughts is freedom. So having that higher look and that outside view of, oh, okay, I can see that this is happening, which I've heard you say so many times. You're like, okay, I notice that this is happening. You're taking the
Yeah.
time to do that reflection. The reflection piece is just so important. People come into the program, they're like, no, I just need to heal my skin. And I was like, reflection, like further your
Yeah.
nervous system state. Otherwise, everything's just a fleeting thing that you've done. You have to
Yeah.
make it concrete in your brain, and even just saying it out loud. And I love the piece that you said too about being on the calls and being within the community, because when you're at the beginning, it's so great hearing people that are further along. That's
Mm.
inspiring. And then all of a sudden, you're midway through, you've had some aha moments, somebody at the beginning saying they're struggling a little bit, you give them some words of wisdom, and you might not even feel it all the time, but even just saying it, that
Yeah.
becomes real. And again, you're just embedding that in your nervous system and creating those new neural pathways.
Or like what you're saying now, you're listening and you're hearing somebody say something and you're like, in your head, you're like, nope, I know that's not going to work now. Yep, that was me a couple months ago, and I know that doesn't work. And you need to shift that thinking and you need to, right? So you start to almost, okay, good, I'm doing this and I'm recognizing it in others. So if I'm recognizing it in others, it means I've recognized it in myself. So sometimes it's like a really good check and balance with you. Yeah, because I had said that to Mandy. I said, oh, I love how you guys purposely set up the program where there was new and old and different stages. Yeah,
Motivating each other, because that's just part of the human journey, right? So
it is.
you learn something new and you practice it yourself, you become the master, and then you start helping other people. And then that's just how humans work. So you just naturally do that. So people further along in the program start motivating other people, because it's different when it comes from us. So obviously it's helpful to have that support and having professionals
Yeah,
around you. But when it's, you hear that from somebody who has just recently been through that, we've all been through it like years ago and all that. But somebody who you've seen go through
yeah,
and you followed their journey, it's a lot more impactful.
I
It's
think
like,
so. I
you get
agree.
me.
Yeah.
We've been in
Yeah,
this
David was
together.
that person for me. Yeah, David was that person. Like I was just probably, I don't know, 6 to 8 weeks behind him.
Yeah.
And so he was experiencing things and sharing things and having his aha moments. And I was just working through some of the similar work that he was doing. So I was, oh, okay, I'm going to grasp onto that.
Yeah.
And yeah, that helps me to move through type of thing.
Yeah. And you know what? I hear this so much on the interviews, time and time again. Is, oh, I was on that call and that was the turning point for me. Hearing
Yeah.
somebody else have that aha moment. Or
Mm-hmm.
even, what was one of them? I can't remember who it was, but they said, you get in or you get out what you put in. So I think Kelly
Yeah.
had said that on one of the calls. And she's like, I realized that stuck. Oh, that was Deanna. That stuck in my head, that you have to show up and do the work to be
Yeah.
able.
And
Yeah.
share and ask questions. I know it in the beginning I was like, oh, like you're talking too much, like you're sharing too much. And then like when people like at the beginning, oh, does anybody want to share? And nobody would share. And I guess it's the teacher in me too, is when you're asking the kids, okay, does anybody have any questions? Nobody has questions. So you're like, okay, like, I'll share, like I'll help. And I think that's just typically like a teacher in you
Yeah.
that, okay, I'll give my insight. I'll get the conversation rolling, and we'll go from here.
Yeah.
Even like the whole idea of acceptance. I forget her name when she had to go through her. So yes, I get the redness on my face, and I did at the very beginning of the program. I went through, or even just before coming into the program, and maybe the first month of the program, I went through it where like I was peeling off in, but it was all very clear skin, so almost like a sunburn, that kind of, but it would peel off in big chunks. But there was that one girl, her whole face had to crust over. And I think it was like around Christmas time. And she went there, and she was among people, obviously, that love and supported her. But that's when I was like, okay, if she can do that, and look how much it's helping her move through things, then it's okay that you're going out and your face is a little bit red. Like you can always cover that up with a little bit of makeup. And as soon as you get back from the gym, wash your face quickly, or at the gym, wash your face and moisturize it. And it made me realize like the amount of sacrifice that she was doing, that I can do this. If she was able to do that, and we saw the healing that she did, and it gives you hope, right? And you think you just have to put the time in and keep persevering through the difficult, because it's only going through the difficult do you think you come out on the other side.
Yes.
So that was a huge aha also for me, is watching other people. And I guess we've all had to suffer to a degree, right? And watching people persevere through that suffering, and feeling uncomfortable, and not sleeping at night, possibly,
Yeah.
just, but sticking to it. And because then you were seeing others, like what a difference it makes. So it's believing, right?
Yes.
Believing.
Believing,
Yeah,
trusting the
100% believing.
process.
Yeah.
And that's where being on the calls and you get invested in everybody else's journey because you're in it together.
Yeah.
Yeah, just having hope that you're in the right space. And
Yeah.
I love your mindset around all of it, is that there is a reason why. So
Mhm.
there's always something that you can do. And obviously I hear it, like, I hear a lot of people's health journeys and it can feel like a lot. And I just like, I'm so grateful to be in this space and understand how the human body works, because there's always something you can do. And
Yeah.
that's so powerful. Yeah. Lisa, thank you
Mhm.
so much for sharing all of this. So, last question. I have two questions. The first one, for somebody who is just starting on their healing journey, and let's say they've gone to the allergist, they're saying, okay, you need to avoid all these things, take all these medications, you're going to the doctors, and they're just sending you in loops, and you're just feeling like it's something a little bit deeper. What would your advice be to them?
I actually had a colleague of mine who moved to another school, and she contacted me, and she has a colleague at her school now who her daughter's going through. So she's at university and she's stressed. So I had many conversations with her, and I was saying things to her about what she was experiencing before she was even telling me, because I've been through it. And she couldn't believe. Yeah. She'd be like, yeah. And I'm like, you're going to go to the allergist, and he's going to tell you this and this. He's going to put you on, because she was going to the same allergist I was going to. He's going to put you on this medication, and you're going to do it for a while, and it's going to make a little bit of a difference. And then it's not going to make a difference anymore. And I kept on sending her all the links towards the Love Your Skin program. I went through it with her. I talked about the pillars with her already, and I could see where she was struggling with some of the pillars that weren't solid for her, and giving her that little bit of advice. I go, this program will do it for you. So it's just, yeah, I guess I do. I'm a big advocate of the program. And even little things like my girlfriend last year went through cancer, and even some of the things that her and I talk about, even though it's has nothing the same, but there's still that piece of keeping your anxiety low, right? Because you don't want to build that kind of more acidic, toxic body, because then again, that's where the cancer thrives, right? So keeping that your body, and she has done wonderful changes to her eating and saying no. She was like me at school, like taking on every single, oh yeah, I'll do it too. And she's changed too. So her and I often talk, even though it's not the same, but there are many different things, meditation and breath work, and there are about foods and limiting things. So even having her and I talk, disease is disease, right? And
Yep.
if it's doesn't matter where in your body, if it's in your head, where it's all coming from. Yeah.
Have you read Gabor Mate's book, The
No.
Myth of Normal? Oh, Lisa, do yourself a favor. You will love it. And
Can
also
you
for your
just
friends.
write that again in the chat? It didn't come through exactly.
I'll pop it in practice better for you.
Okay.
It's called The Myth of Normal from
The
Gabor
myth of
Mate.
no.
He's Canadian.
Okay.
And it just goes through essentially more or less. So women have higher rates of autoimmunity. And so all the practitioners and coaches, we all got together and we went to watch him speak in Australia, in Sydney here.
Is that when
And he
you
gave,
all got together? Okay.
yeah. And he gave eczema a shout out as well, because he's talking about he goes deep into the societal norms now of women having to give more, do more, and the impact of that on health, and then people pleasing, and just also the increased rates of different types of cancers as well with this nervous system state and always pushing, doing. So interesting. His work originated. He was a doctor around East Hastings in Vancouver. And
Okay.
then he was having the conversations with all of the drug addicts there. Okay, how did you get to that point? And all having come from trauma and some sort of pain.
Yeah.
And then also he does work so with addiction, ADHD, and then also just trauma in general. So he's just very, even if you like watch some of his talks, you'll love the book. He's just so well spoken. He
Must have TED
types,
Talks then too, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He has so many talks on the internet. But for your friend too, if she's going through that process, that might be helpful.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, cool. Last question would
Last
be
question.
for members that are just starting the program. What would your advice be?
Trust the process and really go deep within yourself. Really reflect. I didn't need to journal, but I know some people do. And for me, the food journal, it's like a Bible for me. Like every day I'm logging in my food so I can go back and look at it and write down if I have any symptoms, how my bowels were like initially really not moving to moving like normally and what normal looks like. That was a huge part for me. Like now sometimes I can't even believe, oh my goodness, I can't believe how not normal that was, because it was your own, so you just assume what you do is normal. And then I've realized and really embrace the pillars and really find you're going to have a stronger pillar and hold on to that and keep working, make your strengths stronger. And then wherever your needs are, that's where you have to really do your work. That was, yeah, that I would say that's the biggest. And be part of the conversation, be part of the community. Ask questions, because the question that you're asking is probably other people have the same question. And if they don't have the same question, a lot of people have answers, or at least can shout out and say, yeah, I'm going through the same thing too. You're not alone. Like really embrace the community, because the community is, to me, is what's going to heal you. So it's not, it's, and knowing that you're not by yourself, that people are truly do get invested in seeing others, and you're going to find a person that, that you either hooks onto you or you hook onto. It won't be everybody, obviously, but so that community really, and reach out to your practitioners. I know I didn't really do a lot of that in the beginning. I just waited for my root causes before I would send it in and wait to get my supplements and my course of action. But really use that resource. They're there for you to answer things if you're struggling. And everybody's so kind and supportive and understanding. So you really get that sense that people like they truly care. So they're not just saying, "Oh, I understand how you're feeling." And because sometimes you're like, "No, you don't." But then you quickly come to realize as people are sharing that, no, there are people, most of us have gone through maybe not everything that everybody's gone through, but their own degree of terrible, right? Everybody's had their own degree of terrible. And just that in itself, this is so supportive knowing that there is that community. Yeah, I would think, yeah, that would be the biggest things for me.
Oh, amazing, Lisa. Thank you so much
You're welcome.
for sharing all of that. There's so many gold nuggets here of what was impactful for you, turning points for you. And I just love following your journey and having all your aha moments. And one last thing, I didn't want to interrupt you when you were talking. You're talking about menopause.
Yeah.
So, firstly, it's so great that you went through this journey before going through menopause because if your bucket was full
Yeah.
going into it, will be a lot more intense. I'm so grateful for your eczema that led you
Yeah.
here so we can do this work. But also, you mentioned that when you have coffee, that heats you up a little bit, which totally makes sense because coffee, what it does is it increases your cortisol, which is
Right.
what gives you energy and that cognitive clarity. But what you can try doing is taking L-theanine. So L-theanine is in green tea.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll send you both of these in Practice Better.
Okay.
And so what it does, so green tea has caffeine in it. It's a slower release, but what L-theanine does in it, it calms without sedation. So it reduces the amount of cortisol. So
Okay.
you should try that and see if that makes a difference. So you
Okay.
have the
Instead
slower
of
release.
having coffee or
You can
have it
have
just
it with
before.
caffeine. Yeah. Yeah.
Combine it, put it in my coffee.
Oh, I'd have it. It might get too clunky, so have it on the side.
Okay. So have it
Yeah.
first.
Yeah.
So I do notice I'll only have my
Oh,
coffee
yes.
about like a half an hour to 40 minutes after I've eaten.
After.
And
Yes.
that's been a game changer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know that definitely helps. But okay, yeah, let me try
Yeah.
that.
Try that. If you switch to having, let's say, a matcha latte, that would make a big difference as well. Or even if you did a decaf. But if you still want to have the caffeine, try the L-theanine. But you can test it out. And that's the great thing is that, okay, if I'm having the hot flashes and I'm okay with it, I can play around with these different things. Or what's causing them too, you can play around with not having it. So it is
Yeah.
nice to do these little tests on yourself.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I find like the only way to move what I have to do is I have to meditate. So I'll meditate, like either a cooling meditation I'll do, or I'll do the itchy skin. And by the end of the 10 minutes, then I'm fine. So
Yeah.
I think it's just the breath works maybe
Yeah.
helping me, which I'm doing anyways. So I've lined everything up.
Yeah.
I'm wanting to do that anyways to start my
Yeah.
day. So
Yeah.
I'm just making sure I'm doing it after my coffee. Yeah.
That makes sense of why that's working.
Yeah.
If it's that cortisol release, the breath work helps bring you back down again.
Yeah. So,
Meditation.
yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. All right, Lisa, thank you
You're
so
welcome.
much for your time and sharing your journey.